Welcome back to the World Championship Series, everybody! Thank you very much for you joining us here in Cologne. At Borsty, we're still looking to find you. You have to show your face soon. Moving on to the next spot, though, guys. He's here somewhere. We haven't quite figured out where he is yet, but we're looking for you. He's in the toilet. That's not a...
Go there now, find him.
We can't go find him yet, Todd. An interesting first start to the game. Lil Bo doing your country proud.
Yeah, and what I'm most happy about is the way he played too. Like he just played, some solid macro style, adjusted to what he was facing very well as well. In both games, won the mine games, won the build order games as well. So very convincing out of him, and I have high hopes for him advancing possibly
He
today.
sounds really confident, and it puts a lot of belief in people watching at home, watching here, and us on the desk that he can combat the winner of our next game.
Oh yeah, that French PVZ.
It's going to be good to see, but let's focus now on the next match at hand. We have a big game coming up. We've completed with game number 1. We're going to go into game number 2 now. Snute versus Hydra. As soon as the groups were drawn, it was a highly anticipated match. We've got Snute, who is currently trailing behind Bunny in the road to the global finals when it comes to the European representation. And he's matched up against the Season 1 finalist that we saw do ever so well when we traveled to France for Season 1.
Absolutely, Hydra's a monster here, and he's just such a strong, solid player. He's so consistent. But on the other hand, Snute has a very, very unique way of playing Zerg versus Zerg. Snute, very defensive. He's the guy who was one of the first Zerg versus Zerg players when everyone was saying, you should be aggressive in this matchup. You should be attacking, use that Zerg production. Snute was the guy who was saying, never attack, build infestors, build spine crawlers, defend. And he's had a lot of success with that. But that being said, he still mixes in aggression. He still throws out those Ling Bane all-ins. He knows the power of being unpredictable. And I think he understands the matchup very, very well. Playing in Europe, you have a huge number of talented Zerg players here, a lot of up-and-coming Zerg players where ZvZ is their specialty. And I know Snute practices with a lot of them. So I think it really comes down to how both of these players want to play. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing the map vetoes. I think which vetoes each player maps is going to give us a little bit of insight into their mindset.
We will go to that very shortly here, Pig. Don't you worry about that. Todd, a big moment now for Snute. I mean, we've talked about it last year. He got 17th in the ranking, top 16 qualifies to play at the global finals. Currently sitting at rank 25, a little bit behind his teammate Bunny, who advanced to the round of 16. This is, it's not technically a must-win this game against Hydra because he can still advance in second place, but still, this is a fantastic position for him up there to move forward.
Yeah, the thing is, I feel like in the past, Snute is maybe lets the WCS points ranking, he's let it go to his head a little bit too much. That time when he didn't make it, he confessed that a little bit. So I think this year he's not paying as much attention to it and just trying to do well in every single tournament that he enters, taking it match by match, game by game. Had a good showing at DreamHack, but then lost to Hearthstone. He really wasn't happy with that loss, but since then, he's had a lot of time to really focus here on this group and this game. So I hope he's coming in prepared. He's going to need it against the Hydra, who I think they met twice before. Hydra won both times. It's 4-1 in maps for Hydra. It's going to be tough for Snute.
I mean, how much preparation can you make in Zerg versus Zerg?
Absolutely limitless. I think Zerg vs Zerg is one of the more flexible matchups out there in terms of how you want to play and how many risks you're willing to take. And that comes down to how you read your opponent. So in your preparation, there's a lot of studying your opponent, but because both players know he's going to be studying my recent games, both of them are going to be trying to change how they play. They're going to be trying to make sure there's no way to easily exploit what they're doing. So what both players will be looking for in the last week or so studying, preparing for this, is really small intricacies in the patterns that their opponents kind of execute in the games, and they're both going to be looking to exploit those. So it's going to be really, really a matchup of wills and a matchup of choices, and either player could play very aggressively, either player could play quite defensively, but if I had to choose, I'd say Snute's going to be the more defensive player throughout the series. Hydra's going to be throwing a few more curveballs at him. Hydra loves to get in your face. He doesn't like to go to endgame. He likes to finish it in the early mid-game.
I'm happy that you're here, Pig. This is very fascinating to listen to. It's a great addition to the team here.
I wonder if any of these players, actually, either of these players, are going to have like some of their teammates' playstyle emulated in their play, because Hydra, he has Cats on his team, and we've already some of the traits of how Cats likes to play, especially against Protoss in the past. And for Snute, the same thing can be said about TLO. He has TLO in his team that's pretty good at ZvZ, so maybe they practice together. Maybe he's got some things from him.
I mean, you watched all the Challenger games back. Of course, the previous position before coming into Premier League here. Snute played against Bly, 3-1. Obviously, we know that Bly is a very, very aggressive Zerg player.
Yep.
Is there stuff in that matchup that you studied, figured out maybe something, a weakness or a strength of Snute here that maybe Hydra looked at as well coming into this?
I feel like Snute gave almost nothing away in that series. I think Snute played an identical build order in, I believe, every game. It was a 3-1 result, I believe. And it was always the safest, most standard play you would ever see in Zerg vs. Zerg. There was a lot of pull first, very conservative gas timing, extra queens, kind of going into a third base. It was like, I just want to survive with Banelings, and then I want to survive to get roaches, and I want to play you in that mid-game. He felt he was the better player. I think going up against Hydra, we're going to see Snute playing a much more diverse style. I think he's going to mix in some risks. Might skip a Baneling nest one game, go straight into a Carapace upgrade, go for the hatch gas pool. And whether that goes into aggression or Snute's favorite, more drones, we're just going to have to wait and see.
And Pig, what do you say to people who say Zerg vs. Zerg is a coin flip matchup?
I just argue the point that it's definitely not. It's one of these matchups which is very fast, and because it's so fast-paced, sometimes the skill, the choices that are made get lost because the pace of it is so fast. A lot of people look at games and they say, well, sometimes even I see a pro player lose and he doesn't understand what happened in a Roach War. And yes, in the pace of the game, it's very hard, but as an observer, as a spectator, or when you go back and look at the replays, there's always the smarter decisions, the more consistent mechanics, that's what wins out.
All right, Todd, we're looking at Hydra, he's finalist from Season 1, absolutely fantastic performance throughout the season. He only dropped that first game of the very season versus Morrow, and then from there went on a cruise ship towards the grand finals there. He lost against Port, unfortunately. Is he looking at defending this position as his? Is this Snute challenging for this up there? Or is Hydra, how do you look at it for Hydra?
Yeah, on one hand, like I agree with what you said, he's definitely, there to, again, have a very strong performance and go far. But at the same time, like, this is really not a matchup that you would expect to happen so early in the tournaments. Like, maybe in quarterfinals, maybe in semifinals, I'd see these two play, but not here this early in the tournament. So I feel like this one is definitely, up in the air, up for grabs for either of these players. If Snute comes prepared here, I do think he can do well against Hydra.
All right, well, guys, just to update you in the crowd and also back at home, we are having just a slight couple of minutes for the guys setting up behind us, so we're not delaying this for any purpose, just waiting for them to be perfected with everything up there. Todd, what is the difference? I mean, this may be a difficult question. I don't know, maybe you can answer this, Pig. What is the difference between Hydra and Snute, like as players? What separates them? Why is Hydra a Season 1 finalist, and why was Snute just round of 8 last season?
Hydra seems to be like just super fast in general, like maybe to some extent, maybe you could use the word skills. Maybe you're going to disagree. I'm not sure, but whereas Snute is more like strategy orientated, like he will try to find like small details or things that he can do better rather than, just play super fast and be like really good in general.
Yeah.
Is how I see it, kind of. And in ZvZ specifically, I feel like Snute really liked to go roaches into infestors. He was very good with that. But now with the meta, like the last few ZvZs that I've seen, it seems almost impossible or very, very hard to go into infestors. So otherwise you just die to roaches. And I don't think that Snute's a big fan of that. Whereas Hydra, he embraces anything that's in the meta and just uses it very well.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, Todd, that there's that difference, the more defensive, strategical kind of focus from Snute. He wants to increment his edges out. He wants these kind of consistent ways to win. But I feel there's a little bit more of a flair in Hydra's play, a little bit of that sort of killer instinct where as soon as he gets an edge, he wants to use that edge. And so sometimes we might see, I think, Snute's games drag out a bit longer, it drains him more, or sometimes it even slips away. Whereas Hydra, somehow, he always knows the next move, or very consistently knows the next move to finish the game. And part of what makes him so scary is his recent Zerg vs. Zerg history. Beating players like Symbol, a lot of other players. I think realistically, looking back a few months, the only player that's beat him multiple times has been Solar, who took him down in the finals of Gfinity. But other than that, he's been absolutely destroying players.
All right, so here's the maps, Pig. I don't want to cut you off or anything here, but you're very interested in them. Talk to us about, did you manage to catch them there?
I believe that was Echo map 1 and Vani map 2. What was the third map?
Echo Coda Vani, no?
I think so. I wasn't looking at it.
Bring it back, please.
I actually don't know the map order.
It's a very standard map pool, though, for Zerg versus Zerg, I think. So it looks like both players wanted to get rid of those 4-player maps where there's maybe a bit more coin flips, quote unquote. But Echo here is probably the most standard map pool. map in the pool. And you were saying it's hard to get infestors, but Echo is actually a map where it's quite easy to defend 3 bases. You've got those destructible rocks on your third. Even once those get broken down, it's a tiny ramp there. It's a tiny ramp into the front. So this might be a game which we see drag on. Often what you see in all matchups on Echo is the game drags on to harassing each other's 4th and 5th bases and going for big engagements then. 3 base versus 3 base, very, very static.
All right, so we'll be going into that very, very shortly here, guys. The players are almost ready to see the map order currently up. What is the most common way to play on Echo? What is the go-to for both players usually?
I think it's got a very narrow ramp on the natural. So something we do see quite commonly is players doing a gasless or gasless variation build, where they want to go up to roaches, and rather than defending with banelings and speed zerglings, they like to wall off the front of that natural. Now, I know Snute, you know, he had the old Snute build, some people might remember, where it's kind of a greedy way of going to that. But some players like to just go the hatch gas pool because it's a long rush distance, get out the fast, you know, speedling, baneling nest, and sometimes go for some aggression. So I think all builds are viable on this map, but someone might go for that efficient follow-up.
What about all-ins? In a series like this between these 2 players, how many all-ins do you see happen, and on what map most likely?
I think this is a good map for 10 pool baneling because it is a common map for hatch first. Snute lately doing a lot of pool first play, but when you're going up against a player like Hydra, are you going to play that safe? Are you going to try and take more edges? And I think it'll be interesting because in the past, in important moments, we've seen Snute, this typically defensive player, throw out a 10 pool baneling, and it completely surprises his opponent. So I think it's completely down to what these guys have in their minds. I think at least one game in this set will be a cheese from one side. There'll be a 10 pool baneling or a 9 pool.
I like it.
All right, good to see. Snute, very successful year so far within the WCS. 6 wins, 1 loss. Of course, that 1 loss being against Bunny in the round of 8. And just overall, both sides, very healthy WCS stats. Funny enough, we look at Hydra, and he's only played this year within the World Championship Series, moving over from the Korea region to compete within the World Championship Series Premier League. But we're seconds away now, moments away from the second match of the day here for Group E. There's Hydra, despite how warm I think it is in here. Nope, he's not putting it on, never mind. He's putting it on his back of his chair.
Just showing off the team logos there, you know, getting it all set up.
All right, Pig and Todd's moments, final predictions. Which way you see this going? Is it going towards the Season 1 finalist or to the European?
I'd have to favor Hydra here. I think it'll be a 2-1 his way.
Todd?
I favor Hydra, but I really want to see Snute do well, so I'm going to follow my heart as always and say Snute's going to win.
All right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. The wait is over. It's now time to see which player is going through to the winners match. Will it be Snute for Europe here, or is Hydra, the Season 1 finalist, going to march towards another season finals? Let's find out.
All right, one of the biggest threats to one of the top non-Koreans in the entirety of the world is looking to try and power on through. We already saw Hydra do so well in that Season 1. And now Snute, who is looking to that road to BlizzCon, has to go up against him in his first round of 32 game.
Yep, of course, if he would lose here, that's not the end of the world yet. He's going to have a chance to redeem himself in the lower bracket match and then eventually a decider. When you look at a group like this, if you're one of the 4 players, you look at like, all right, man, well, Hydra is going to be really tough. But Snute, he's not afraid of a challenge. It's going to be a fun series. I think the first series of the day was already very fun, where we saw some very unorthodox builds, to say the least. I think even in game 2, which was pretty wild, where he like went for Rex number 4 and 5 before anything else. I think this ZvZ is going to be a little less crazy, unless Snute really surprises us. He's known as such a default ZvZ player, right? Like, we know how he likes to play the most standard style of ZvZ. Opens up with a few speed links, a few bane links, then try to go into roaches. Maybe a timing, maybe no timing, but other than that, nothing too crazy. But maybe, because he's playing against Hydra, he's going to think outside of the box, and he's like, all right, maybe I should take a risk or two, like Pig mentioned as well, to catch this guy off guard.
Yeah. Do you think Hydra goes into this with any fears whatsoever? I mean, Snute is a guy that obviously has gained himself a brilliant reputation, right? But does Hydra feel anything to that? I mean, it's funny because we mentioned this last season. It is oftentimes overlooked, but he has so much experience. He is a previous MSL champion, which he doesn't really get much credit for here in StarCraft II.
No, I mean, it was a different game, of course, but the diehards, they do bring it up every now and then.
Yeah.
Team Liquid and Reddit is like, hey, why are you guys surprised that this guy is doing well? Obviously, he's going to do well. He won one of the biggest tournaments in Brood War a long time ago. But, you know, those things, they don't really matter right now. What matters is that Hydra has been on an extreme hot streak ever since he moved to California. He's not one of those guys that moved to the US and started slacking. Like, no, I've seen him. I visited him even for a weekend in California back then in the Root House, and I saw him just sitting in his corner. He's very happy there. He likes the way things are going, and how can you not be? You know, he was grinding away games in Korea for the longest amount of time, had a few minor victories here and there, but nothing huge. And then 2015 comes along, he gets this golden opportunity, and he's already won more prize money this year than he did in his entire StarCraft II career. So you can say, obviously, looking at it from that point of view, it's been a good decision, but he wants more. You know, anything less than a spot at BlizzCon at the end of the year would be a major disappointment for Hydra. Right now, he's on track, you know, looking good in those WCS standings, currently cruising around rank 8, rank 9, but he needs a few more points, and he needs to make it out of this group. And I do think that, you know, anything else would be an extreme disappointment for him and even for Root Gaming.
Yeah, he has really made a strong name for himself here ever since 2015 really started. It's funny because when you look at him going into tournaments that are WCS external ones or even the WCS seasons themselves, he is rarely losing to anybody but the very, very top tier of players. I think it was Parting that was able to beat him at Gfinity. It was obviously Polt that was able to beat him in Season 1. And then, of course, there was Morrow, who's able to beat him in the very beginning as well. But he has really become extremely fearsome opponent.
Yeah, he's just so solid, man. As a player like that, he's extremely good. And of course, there's always a little bit of chance within StarCraft 2. But when you're as good as Hydra, you're not going to drop series left and right because of the random chance of something happening. Looking at this map as well, we have 3 2-player maps. I was talking a little bit about that with Pig at the start of the day. You know, none of these guys wants to do something very weird on a 4-player map, which of course, you know, it's possible to surprise your opponent on a 4-player map, do some crazy cheese build maybe.
Yeah.
2-player maps, they kind of eliminate some sort of chance in this matchup. So you can still roll the dice, you can still go for a tempo ban, you can still go for a very quick speedling attack, but it's going to be harder, it's going to be easier for your opponent to identify. So looking at it, both players will most likely play this pretty damn straight up. It's going to be a fun series, though. It really is. I've recently casted these two actually going up against each other in the Ding It Invitational, and I believe that Snute was able to win on Echo. That was one of these maps where he was able to stabilize, and I think one difference that marks these two players when they play similar styles is that Snute will go up to Hive a lot quicker than Hydra will. Okay. And obviously if he gets 3-3 upgrades against 2-2, well, upgrades matter so much when it comes to Roaches, Marines, and even in, you know, Protoss armies classing each other. In mirror matchups, you know, if you have an upgrade advantage, in general, you're going to trade very well. So let's see if that's going to be something we will see in this series. Let's see if Snute will be able to go up to Hive before Hydra is able to punish him for that.
All right, well, we're getting into it. Game number 1 here between Hydra and Snute. Arguably one of the prime matchups of the day. 2 big titans here of Zerg in StarCraft 2. As we have spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner, it's our red Zerg representing Team Liquid. It is Snute. Arguably the best non-Korean in the world right now.
He needs a big result, though, to back that title up. Don't you agree?
Yes, he does. And he goes up against a fearsome opponent up to the top left. It's our blue Zerg representing Team Root. It is Hydra, who I would say has proved himself this year and looks to prove himself even more.
Yep. Once again, for the people who just joined us, definitely the 2 favorites going into Group E, but it's always easier said than done. We've seen a lot of upsets. I would even say last week we saw a couple of upsets when we watched the groups being played out in North America. Who could have ever thought that Red and Marine Lord would win their group and that Violet would be eliminated in the round of 32, especially after he practiced so much more than he did for Season 1. I'm sure Hydra paid attention to that and also looked at it and was like, hey, you know, I know I've been doing really well. I know I've been cruising in these tournaments, but this is still the tournament. As long as there's no BlizzCon going on, you want to perform within WCS. So, you know, no player can afford to make any unnecessary mistakes.
Yeah, definitely. And that's more relevant for Snute than almost anyone, because if you think back to 2014, he lost a lot of points by not doing well in WCS. I think it was Season 2 and even into Season 3.
No, he did so well on all those IEMs and even in a couple of DreamHacks, but the tournaments where he really scored a crazy amount of points, the WCS seasons, he didn't really perform that well. Season 1, quarterfinals was a pretty good result for Snute. We can't fault him for being eliminated in the quarterfinals. That's a solid performance, there's no way around it, but he needs to at least do that again if he wants to, you know, be up in those rankings. Currently around rank 25, still very possible for Snute to make it to BlizzCon, especially if this is a semi-final season for him, or even a final, which we know that he's capable of. You know, Bunny and Snute, both of those Team Liquid guys, I mean, their entire team is doing so well, but especially Bunny and Snute, we know that if things go well, if the stars align, those guys can make it to BlizzCon, but they have to perform here.
Yes, they do. As for now, getting into this game to start things off, I don't think either player really spotted the second Overlord moving out. Actually, now it's just crossed each other's paths, so they know nothing too crazy is going on, especially with obviously the spotting of this hatchery going down as well either side. So no real apprehensiveness about the build that they're going at the moment.
Snute was a tiny bit more safe than Hydra was, as Snute went for pool before hatch, and Hydra did it the other way around. That's of course a minor advantage for Hydra. Gas going down at pretty much exact times over here, so it's not immediately a gas right afterwards. It's not a crazy commitment to a very early speedling. So far everything is very standard, other than the minor economic advantage that Hydra got for going hatch first.
Yeah, making sure that this Overlord can't get in to see any gas timings, whereas I think the other one on the other left-hand side is going to be able to spot this gas. So that's already a really nice start for Snute.
Yeah, it's one of these small things, right? Like Snute just pushed away the Overlord of Hydra. Now, he didn't really have anything to hide, but your opponent doesn't have to know that you have nothing to hide, because Hydra is going to be a little bit paranoid. He's like, hey, what was that Queen doing? Why did he make it so hard for me to see what's going on? But now he was still able to get just a sneak peek at the extractor. But that's all you need. You click on the extractor, you see how much gas is behind here. Like, all right, you cheeky guy, you did the same thing as me. What are you trying to hide when there is nothing to hide?
Exactly. So just putting him in a state of insecurity. As 100 gas has been banked up here on Hydra. Can throw into his speed if he wants to. Just not doing that just yet. Sometimes you see these weird builds where people forego speed for quite a while, and then just in case they see something crazy going on from the other side, then they can put that elsewhere. Yeah,
actually both players are doing this. Neither is actually starting Zergling speed just yet, so we could see very quick layers on both sides, unless something really weird is going to happen. Maybe 2 evolution chambers going down at the same time, but there's Hydra already with his hive, and Snute is doing the exact same thing. So this is kind of cool, because this is also not something that was standard for the longest amount of time in ZvZ. You know, going up to layer before Zergling speed. Sometimes people even faked it, you know, they started Zergling speed and then they cancelled it and went up to a quicker layer. Now both players are doing it, so they don't want to waste any times on Zerglings and Banelings. No resources being wasted in that department. Let's just go into Roaches immediately.
And it's kind of cool, really. If you look at the Snute's layout of buildings, obviously he is trying to set himself up in a defensive posture to, even if his opponent did have speed, he would have the full wall off and it would be hard for Lings to get in anyway. So, but yeah, just completely mirrored, really down the line here.
His +1 is a little bit faster, but it's very hard to make something work when you have like an upgrade advantage that lasts for like 15 seconds. Sometimes you do see it, but it's something that we can see because we have full information when it comes to the upgrades when they line up. Obviously the players can't know that, and Snute can't possibly know that he will have roughly 20 seconds to fight with +1 when his opponent doesn't have it yet. So the first skirmishes are going to be really important. You know, how many Roaches will be produced before both players go up to 3 bases? Will one player truly try to make something happen as soon as he has Roach speed and 1 or 2 upgrades, or will both players just try to sing it out? Because, you know, one thing that goes for most mirror matchups is that the player that is going to attack is going to be in a disadvantage because of the rally points.
And with the second evolution chamber already coming down here for Hydra, how much does this change things up compared to what we're seeing from Snute? Does this give him a stronger advantage later on? What does this really do for him?
I think it's really hard for him to identify. Like, if he spots it, he may think that, okay, I'm going to have a few more Roaches in a certain phase in the game. But Echo, you know, it goes for most matchups, but even for ZvZ, it's hard to attack on 3 bases, man. It really is. And I don't think this is going to give Snute some window of opportunity to somehow fight with 3 extra Roaches or so. He may try, because he has tried to hit like almost impossible timings in the past, and sometimes it works. He's going to knock down his own cooling tower. Makes it so comfortable to defend 3 bases for now. I think what we're going to see is Tunnel and Claws being researched as well, because the way that this is setting up, I think it's going to be pretty hard for either player to truly make something work. Hydra has had 9 drones more right now though than Snute. So that does give me the idea. Maybe Snute is going to try to do something with just +1. And it's a commitment, man. It's a pretty damn big commitment, because being down 9 workers in this phase in the game, that is something that's going to stack up. And in a minute or two, Hydra will have a significant army supply advantage. So Snute needs to do something with this. Maybe at least kill more roaches than he's going to lose, and maybe get a queen or two. But I think it's going to be so hard. I'm not sure how I feel about this.
The creep already gave him good indication of this army was pushing on very quickly. These are higher numbers here for Snute at the moment, but reinforcement point could make a big difference. It really does depend. Plus, the upgrades haven't finished yet here for Hydra, right? So this is a bit sticky for him. He loses a queen. That's going to bring down some of the production that we're seeing here from Hydra.
Yeah, okay, well that is at least something. He gets 1 queen, maybe Snute is able to get a 2nd queen. I don't think that the game is going to end here, even though there is a significant roach advantage over here for Snute. But there are 14 roaches on the way, and unless they all hatch 1 by 1, I think Hydra should be able to clean this up eventually, but not before losing quite a few drones. Snute is making it work, hitting that tiny little timing. That isn't even really a timing, but somehow he's getting so much value out of these roaches.
Yeah, he really was able to pinpoint that precisely. He's going to have to get out of here now, realizing that the reinforcements are a little bit too strong, but 20 worker lead. If he can stabilize behind this will be great for Snute.
This was phenomenal. He has killed 12 drones there. He has built up a lot of drones behind this. He needs to make sure that he squeezes out enough roaches for now. He's down 5 roaches. He could use the queens as well. Right now they're still even on upgrades. In a minute or so, the upgrades are going to heavily favor Hydra. So Hydra shouldn't want to waste too many of his roaches over here.
Yeah, and if he keeps these queens alive to Snute, then he's got lava injects, like at least 1 or 2 lava injects over his opponent, which is going to fuel this roach army even stronger. So he's catching up in the carapace now as well. So the small things that Snute did earlier on are slowly gathering up and giving him a really strong lead.
I can't believe he was able to do so much with that tiny attack that really felt like, you know, like how much extra do you really have by skipping out on the evolution chamber and like stopping droning just a little bit earlier. Well, apparently just enough to kill 12 drones and a few queens and a few roaches. And what I love as well is that he didn't just sacrifice everything there for 2 or 3 more drones. He left when he's like, all right, I'm overstaying my welcome over here right now. Let's just save the roaches that I still have so I don't have to worry about a crazy counterattack. And right now, Snute is in a really good position. I'm very impressed.
Hydra's going to have to try and catch up here or there. There was actually the contamination gone down, I think, on this +2 weapon, so slowing it down a little bit. If Snute could try and get contamination off himself on some of these hatcheries, for example, or even the upgrades, I don't know how Hydra catches up with being in the position that he currently is. He'll have a small economy advantage, very briefly, but for now, how are you supposed to combat this kind of army?
Yeah, it's going to be very hard. I mean, maybe with a very strong defensive concave and then like using your queens as well, you still have minor upgrade advantage right now. Actually, no, they're dead even right now. So this should be another good fight over here for Snute. He runs straight into the concave. He knows that that is a strong defensive position for Hydra, but Snute had slightly more roaches to begin with.
Yeah, keep his opponent's army down and just maybe wait on the reinforcements once again and try and pressure on trading off roach for roach. But he knew that he had more production there for a while. Doesn't want to go in too far, though, by the looks of things. Just pulling back, and he's going to go for the Hydra list.
Yeah, that's interesting that he's getting a Hydra then before an infestation pit. That's not really the Snute I know. Snute most of the time will go for infestors before he starts adding in Hydras, but it's definitely not in a bad position, especially not when you're ahead.
This is quite a brutal supply block as well. He's in a really, really bad spot at the moment. Going to plow on through again here. These units were burrowed, but he knows he has to take the engagement here against this. There's a massive, massive advantage here for Snute.
Yeah, but +2 just finishing right now for Hydra before he already lost like 4 or 5 or 6 roaches. Or actually right after he lost all those roaches. And Snute is just trading awesome over here. Snute might actually be able to end the game.
There you go, GG. Game number 1 goes to Snute. And it's those minor details that are able to win Snute things out. I mean, who can say the turning point wasn't where he was able to just get in there after only having 1 evolution chamber and really hitting that really crisp timing.
I can't believe he was able to do so much with that very first attack. Hydra probably asking himself, like, I don't really think I did anything wrong over there. Why did this guy attack me in that phase in the game? I don't think I was that greedy. He made a few more drones, but it wasn't ridiculous greed. It wasn't going up to 60 drones quickly or something. It was like in the low 50s, which was quite standard. But awesome attack by Snute. I look at this game, James, and it was like, you know what? Even if I had Fog of War turned off, I couldn't have played it any better myself. Like, I don't even think that attack would have worked. But Snute showing us some really solid understanding and execution over here in our first ZvZ of the day.
Yeah, very well done there by Snute. Obviously, Hydra can quite easily battle back because he is a world-class player. We're going to go to a short break, and then when we're back, it's going to be game number 2 between Hydra and Snute. A great start there for Snute in game at number 1 of the World Championship Series, round of 32, to start his campaign off here on the road to BlizzCon. However, Hydra at the moment, as we said before, he is no slouch. I'm pretty sure he's going to try and claw this one back.
Yeah, absolutely. Our second map is going to be the most played map currently in WCS. It's Vani Research Station. It's kind of the map that everybody loves. And this is a cool map in ZvZ because I've seen a few ridiculous builds on this map. And I've actually seen Hydra use it as well, where they pretend that everything is standard and then suddenly they just make 100 Zerglings with +1 upgrade or something, while your opponent is like ready to transition into roaches, is trying to saturate his third base, and then suddenly 100 Zerglings stream across the map. I'm pretty sure that Snute has seen the game that I've been talking about it. So maybe he's not going to use it, but maybe we'll see something crazy on this one.
Perhaps. Let's get into it. Game number 2, as we have spawning down to the south, it's our red Zerg. Representing Team Liquid, it is Snute. Looking formidable in that first game, hitting a really crisp timing, as we mentioned before. And then up to the north, it is our blue Zerg. Looking to get to the finals once again here in Season 2, it is Root Hydra.
You know what I do wonder about if I am Hydra right now? It's like how much have my opponents seen of me, and particularly in this matchup, because even I don't really like stay at home and I'm glued to my television because Hydra is going to play a ZvZ. You know, if it's on, yeah, I might watch, but you don't really look forward to it. But I can recall over 15 to 20 ZvZs that I've either casted or watched of Hydra in the last few months, and that has to go to your head a little bit. It's like, man, I've played so many ZvZs. There is all this information out there about me. I have to switch it up. I have to keep, being unpredictable, which I would say in generally he is, even more than Snute. I would say that Hydra has like 3 to 4 openings that he likes, and he has like a healthy rotation between all those. So I wonder if that's something that he even thinks about, or if he just kind of plays it and relies on his macro.
And I'm curious as well. I mean, the thing is that about Hydra is he started off as a very cheesy player in StarCraft II. We saw him in Pro League, for example, playing out these crazy games, and it would always be like very, very aggressive styles. But he's really rounded out his play, especially ever since coming over to the Western scene. So it's cool to see how much he's done. But interesting movements of the Snute's Overlord, actually. His second one, it's actually probably going to elude the path of the first Overlord, the second Overlord out of Hydra. So they could be a little bit scared here. There are those small dynamics where they don't see the second Overlords and they haven't been able to spot too much, and they're like, well, what is really going on? So it keeps both players in the dark a little bit.
But other than that, the openings are very similar to what we saw in Echo, where Snute goes for pool before hatch, and Hydra is doing it the other way around, goes hatchery, even squeeze out one more drone, and then decided to drop the pool. Has probably been talking a little bit with his captain, El Capitan, Katz himself. Katz, of course, always there to provide Hydra with information about the players, as Katz knows so much about the foreign scene as well, about all their playstyles. And he has probably told Hydra, I don't think you really have to worry about too many early game cheeses of Snute, because Snute is not really your 10 pool bailing type of guy. So Hydra not afraid to open up very economically once more.
Hydra pokes him, sees that gas now is being taken, sees 2 links moving across the map in the middle as well with his Overlord. And, well, Hydra for now, I don't think he even okay, there's the first 2 Zerglings on the way. So they're going to sit at the ramp and try and maybe deny a little bit of the scouting going on here from Snute.
Yeah, I don't even think those Zerglings were produced in the previous game. But, you know, Hydra has slightly quicker gas over here. I don't think he's going to be able to do a whole lot with it. We saw it in the last game. With the way he opened, how economic it was, he has a minor drone advantage of 2 drones right now. He's going to be able to ride that out for a little while just because of the way that this game opened up. But other than that, we'll see which player is going to commit first to making maybe a lot of Zerglings, but most likely not. Are we going to see a bailing nest? Will Zergling speed even be researched? Or are we going to see a mirror image of Echo where both players go up to layer as quick as possible? And then, well, let's have a good old roach party.
Yep, nothing like a good old roach party. We see them a lot in this matchup, and they will.
Terrans and Protoss are never invited to this one, James.
No, they are not. They're just gonna, unfortunately, have to sit on the sidelines and watch.
It's like a dance-off between the roaches, you know, and we are just the spectators. It's like
I'm now imagining roaches doing breakdancing, and it's the weirdest
Yeah, that's exactly
image.
what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
So you think you can dance, Roach 2.0.
Oh, well, nice denial there by these two queens at the top, and even spreading a little bit of creep out there towards that third base. Always important to actually have a little bit of vision out there. Obviously, the overlords give you good vision in the middle of the map. It's very difficult to deny those, especially on Valley Research Station, because you can't get the queens over there that quickly. So it's either up to like the two-base Spyro eventual Mutalisks or Hydralisks very later on down the line, and then you don't have the vision from there.
Yeah, once again, neither player is going to research Zergling speed, neither player is going to throw down a Bailing Nest. Of course, on this map, it is very easy to defend stuff like this, especially on two bases, because you have your hatchery inside your main base, and you can put queens on the ramp, maybe a spine crawler behind it if you're worried about, you know, your opponent making a lot of Zerglings. So other than that, you know, this is a mirror image of Echo we are going to see. I think it's going to be very hard for Snute to do something identical to what he did on Echo, where he decided to be the aggressor first, which is normally a choice you look at and you're like, ugh, well, it's going to be hard to really get a lot of value out of that attack. But he did. But I don't think something like that is going to work twice, because instead of making 52, 53 drones, Hydra could stop at 48, 49, and then he will have a drone advantage. He will have a roach advantage later on.
Yeah, I think from natural to natural location as well, it takes quite a while to get down there. Sorry, from base to base.
Yeah, definitely.
So, even the reinforcement point becomes even more pivotal on a map like this compared to Echo.
Yeah. Snute is making a few roaches, but I think Hydra already produced those roaches as well, so nothing too crazy, but Hydra's like, alright, not 52 immediately. Let's just see what's going on. Snute is making a lot of roaches again, though. This is already 7, so he's going to produce more roaches than Hydra. And this is that point where we keep a close eye on the production tab. How many more drones will Hydra make? Because right now, every drone that he produces is a risky one.
Yeah, there's 23 seconds of a +1 window where can he do so? It's very, very finite. Once again, we said it in the last game. It's like, nah, but he actually did make something happen. So.
Okay, Hydra's making 8 roaches behind this. He has a few roaches out there. Just kind of testing the water, see what's going on. Has to be very careful that he doesn't overstay his welcome. As roach speed timings are pretty identical on both sides, Hydra needs to bring these roaches back. He's making a lot of roaches. He's very worried. Like, you can definitely see that last game has done something. He's like, okay, last game I was too greedy. I made a few too many drones. I will not make that mistake. And you can immediately see him adjusting.
More and more roaches pile on out, and then from that point on, both of these upgrades will finish up for either player. It's there a little bit of extra gas coming in from Hydra, I think. So he's really trying to rocket up further. He technically could have access to earlier Hydralists or something like that if he wanted them, but he's actually going to throw it into the tunneling claws pretty quickly here.
Yeah, I was talking a little bit with TLO before the series started, and he's like, you're going to see a lot of tunneling claws, you're going to see a lot of roaches. He's like, that's kind of the style right now. Everybody loves using it, and it can be very hard. Once things start going well for you, it will continue going well. Snute loses 2 roaches before this battle even starts, and Snute realizing that he finds way more roaches than he expected in this phase of the game on that side of the map. So he's like, alright, I shouldn't take this fight. There is no way, if I already have fewer roaches by the time this battle starts, that this is a good fight for me to commit, because his reinforcements are going to be quicker. I should just back off for now.
How do you think the upgrades line up here? Because it's armor as well as +2 weapons on the way, compared to just +2 weapons for Hydra, obviously with the tunneling claws as well. If he has good vision, if he has good overseers and stuff like that, doesn't he just kind of negate a lot of what we're seeing here from Hydra?
Definitely easier said than done, James. It's like one of these moments where a single overseer is not going to be enough. You probably need an overseer on both places, especially if Hydra can keep this hidden for a while. Like, I'm sure that Snute is thinking about this right now. Tunneling claws, roaches, always a possibility. But how quickly? Because Hydra pretty much rushed up to this. So if he's able to start things off well for him, like if he's able to get 3 roaches into, let's say, the back of the natural and 3 roaches into the main base, I love how he's scouting with his overseer. He's like, hey, you got any detection? No? Cool. This is where my fun starts.
Cool. That's certainly what he's going to be thinking, because here come the sharks.
Oh, that's so smart by Hydra. I really love this, because now he knows that this is a safe play, that he's not just sacrificing 6-7 roaches for 1 or 2 drones. By the time that these roaches are going to be on burrow, okay, that's the first time that Snute is going to be aware of this, but it's already a little late, because now he spots these roaches. He's like, damn it, I don't have anything over here.
Yeah, he's already on the move with the majority, or a little bit of his force at least. He knows he has to leave some towards the third base, because obviously there could be that potential counterattack. Thankfully, he has a few spine crawlers there as well, and Infestors are actually about to pop. I don't think he even got pathogen glands there, so he's trying to get those out very, very quickly.
I think you're 100% right over here. He did leave enough roaches, I believe, over here on the left side. The spine crawlers, unfortunately for Snute, are a little bit out of position, but I think he's doing all right. There are still a few roaches left in his main base, though, but I think these trades for him over here on the left side, a couple of infested terrors even helping out. I must say, Hydra still has a lot of very full HP roaches, and let's not forget that burrow is great for continuing aggression, because you trade, you retreat, and then you just immediately regenerate all that HP, and you try to do the same thing all over again.
9 workers killed off during all of that, so it did give him a sizable lead in the worker count, 65 against 57 at the moment, but 19 extra roaches and transitioning over to Hydralisks. Now, how do the tech choices line up here? Obviously, Hydralisks against Infestors if he wants to get pathogen glands later on.
Yeah, I hope he's aware of that, though. I'm sure he is. Maybe he just doesn't want to waste his resources in that. Maybe he's worried about a big follow-up attack from Hydra. But it's very weird. That's not something you normally see. Infestors being added before pathogen glands is being researched.
It is a little bit strange, but regardless, maybe he felt that there was a window there for Hydra to do something and he needed things as quickly as possible. It's quite the commitment. It's quite the commitment. You don't normally see it, but regardless, he's going to go for Overlord speed now as well, just to get himself in a better position to be able to spot what's going on across the map.
So how do you look at that? Like, I think it was good enough for Hydra, right? Like, I think he got out of that upgrade what he wanted.
Yeah, it seems so. I mean, behind all of this, his income is looking strong and powerful. A little bit supply block, but it's kind of a blip at the moment. Now, where is his follow-up? Because Hive is on the way for Snute.
Yeah, I mean, he is one of... Oh, maybe he doesn't even want to get pathogen glands all this time. Maybe it was just like 1 or 2 infestors so they can start like getting enough energy for a fungo or 2. But other than that, we know that Snute is the Zerg. And like I mentioned this in the start of the series, he loves to go up to Hive as quick as possible. He loves to get those 3-3 upgrades out in a phase in the game where your opponent probably doesn't expect it yet. He has enough energy for 1 fungo here. I still think this is a rough fight for Snute, especially with all these Hydras on the north side of the battle.
Yeah, the Hydras could potentially change the battle here very, very quickly, as they are doing quite a bit of damage on the left-hand side. Roaches have to retreat out here for Snute. Go back to the safety of some of these spine crawlers, but they could fall very, very quickly as well. The Hydras are doing so much at the back. He doesn't have the Infestors left over to actually battle against this. He's lost tons of roaches. GG. Hydra plays that out immaculately there. And Snute just kind of got blindsided a little bit.
Snute trying to do a few too many things I think at once. He added 2 infestors. I think just to regenerate enough energy and then still try to sneak away with that very quick Hive. Try to go closer and closer to those 3-3 upgrades. But Hydra was like, hey, I did a little bit of damage with my tunneling claws and roaches. That was good enough. Now I'm going to follow it up with another big attack. And this time I'll have a couple of Hydras in the mix. I was very surprised to see Snute kind of jump on that opportunity to engage that army. Like, that fungo was good, but 1 or 2 fungos most of the time doesn't really change the outcome of the battle. And I think he was very surprised by those Hydras that were coming in from the north side. If this is a Roach versus Roach, yeah, Hydra has a small advantage, but I think with the reinforcements, Snute was going to be okay. But those Hydras, man, like, yeah, they are glass cannons, but if you can't break the glass, a lot of cannons.
Yeah, that's really true, actually. I think that you really hit the nail on the head there. If that engagement had gone a little bit slower maybe for Snute, he could have evaluated the situation a bit more and used those fungals to maybe go for the Hydras and then try and cut down some of that damage that was coming towards him. But, well, regardless, that is now 1-1 here. Hydra really being able to hit that crisply. It's an interesting thought, though, because if Snute is a guy that is going to be going up to Hive so quickly, is he mixing these in without pathogen glands to just kind of cut some of the cost and leaving them there to bank up? It's a cool point that you bring up.
I definitely think it was on purpose, and you know, if Hydra wouldn't have followed this up with another big attack and he gave Snute a little more time, then maybe Snute has, instead of 2 fungals, he's going to have 4 or 5 fungals, then Snute will be maxed out as well. And I think it's very possible that Snute is able to stabilize on those 3 bases, on his Hive tech, and then start +3 missile attacks, +3 armor, and then suddenly, you know, the clock is ticking for Hydra. It's like, okay, what am I going to do right now? How am I going to put myself in an advantageous position? Because I have to do something, because my opponent is going to have much better upgrades. But, you know, Hydra is saying, not today. This time you're not just going to get 3-3, and I will do something to prevent it.
All right, well, we're getting into game number 3 now, as is 1-1 here in this best of 3. Series number 2 of the day for Group E for the World Championship Series round of 32, as Hydra really wanting to move on, accumulate himself even more points than he's already banked up here at the moment. So well. All right. We have Coda, our map, spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner. It is our red Zerg representing Team Liquid. It is Snute. And up to the top left-hand corner, we have our blue Zerg representing Root Gaming. It's Hydra.
Koda going to be our final map for our second series of the day. If you guys just tuned in, our first series was Lil Bao versus Kelazur. A pretty entertaining PvT series with two very unorthodox strategies, or at least build orders being used by Kelazur. But in the end, Lil Bao was able to prevail. So the winner of this series will move on to face Lil Bao in the winners match, and the loser will play against Kelazur in the lower bracket match. Score is 1-1 in this best of 3, and so far I think this has been some very high level PvZ. They're hitting windows that they seem so hard for me to read, but the understanding of this matchup and the game in general is absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's very, very good. Hydra, obviously, you know, after being hit by that first timing in game number 1, he really, it was like...
And I almost still refuse to call it a timing. It's like, Snute, that's so hard. Like, how do you even sense these things? Like, I don't get it.
Truly strong game sense. But it's he was saying, well, you're not going to do that again in game number 2, that's for sure. So a really good adaptation here from Hydra.
And Hydra just going hedge first, 3 games in a row, by the way, and again squeezing out that... No, this time he's dropping the pool straight after that, but Snute once more going pool before hatch. So far, you know, obviously you have to look at the build order history after every single game if you're one of these players, and you look at it, you're like, man, hatch first again, like, yeah. And then Snute is probably thinking like, maybe I should do it once, and then you're like, nah, I don't want to be that guy that goes for a 10 pool Bane in the final game, and then suddenly he has a pool first ready, and then like you just kind of throw away the series, and then for the rest of the day, you tell yourself, like, why did I do that? Why did I do that? I shouldn't have done it. It's not me to go for the 10 pool Bane.
Exactly, especially when you're the caliber of someone like Snute, who can just play very, very strong macro games later on.
And it's not even like a default win or anything. It will still come down to execution. As Koda is, it's a pretty large map from ramp to ramp. Like, it's not one of the bigger maps in the current pool. It's no Cactus Valley or Inferno pools, but from ramp to ramp, it's also not extremely short, as you kind of have to, you know, take like this little S shape throughout the middle of the map, up a ramp, down a ramp. It slows down the padding of your units quite a bit.
Yeah, it does. For me and Sean, Koda and Echo, they're sister maps basically. I feel that they play out in similar ways, and they are very, not similar in terms of layout, but the up, down, as you were mentioning before, is something that is similar, but not exactly the same path. It's not straight like it is on Echo. So I like how these two maps play out at the moment.
I definitely think these are two of the more popular maps in our current map pool. It's more popular than Cactus Valley. It's more popular than Inferno pools. I think if you ask Zerg players, then they will always pick this map over Echo against Protoss, because you know, on Echo it's a little bit easier to defend 3 bases because you can knock down those cooling towers, and that makes it a little bit more complicated for the Zergs. But in Mirror, I think this is a this is a map that most players will look at. It's like, all right, this could be our new Overgrowth. This could be the map that no one should veto, because you know, if you're confident and if you like to play straight up, and if you're not that gimmicky, then this is your go-to map.
Yeah, and once again, no speed on the way for either of these guys just yet. They've got 100 gas, but they're still looking a little bit reluctant to go into that very, very quick evolution chamber at the back, hidden away here for Hydra. So this kind of is very, very cool, because Snute has been the one that has actually been getting the leg up on the terms of evolution chamber timings, but Hydra could potentially hit a very, very deadly +1 timing here against Snute.
It's funny though when I look at this and I see like this tree. Oh, okay, +1 Zerg. Like, okay. You know, Hydra is that guy. I said it in the start of the series as well. Like, he obviously has his go-to builds as well, but he's a little more diverse than Snute is. He has like 3 or 4 openings he likes to rotate in, and most of the time within a best of 3, definitely within a best of 5, but most of the time at least one game in a best of 3, he will do something to try to catch you off guard, and he will do something crazy early on. Snute should sort of be aware of this, because there is so much ZvZ out there. And this is not the first time that Hydra tries to do something like this. Quick +1 melee upgrades. He's getting a Roach Warren as well. And that I'm a little bit confused about. I almost think it's fake. I almost think it's like, hey, you want to see my Roach Warren? It's over here.
I also think he didn't mind his opponent seeing the third base, because the +1 melee weapons and Zerglings can say to, well, Snute, well, okay, you've seen my third base. It's safe for you to take yours. But with +1 melee and Zerglings on the way, that third base is under a lot of threat, I feel.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. And I believe there is a queen pushing away that Overlord in the middle of the map, middle north from Hydra. Like, this is so smart, because right now the other Overlord that's nearby for Snute is all the way on the south side of the Zelnaga Watchtower. So this is going to be so difficult. Snute is already producing roaches, because sometimes something like this can trigger you as well. You're like, why are you doing this? You know, like, shouldn't this queen be injecting? Doesn't this queen have better things to do than hunting down my overlord? Like, this is a massive commitment for Hydra. +1 Zerglings are very strong, they're very fierce, and as long as they don't face +1 roaches, they're very good if they can get a surround off. Like, Snute should probably accept that this third base is absolutely dead in the water, ignore it, just try to stabilize in your natural, and this evolution chamber. Snute, don't do that.
He didn't show him the extent of the Zerglings. Only now has he seen the amount of Zerglings that have come along after the Roaches moved out of position to try and defend the third base.
He gets to the evolution chamber.
He managed to get in. Hydra with a brilliant little move here manages to get all the Zerglings in, catch some of the Roaches on the left-hand side. The ones on the right are also dying off. Lings are going to shred up a lot of these drones as well, who had to come off for the fight, but that was brilliantly orchestrated here for Hydra, despite a pretty good defense from Snute, to be honest.
That was so smart by Hydra, you know, she's just showing a few Zerglings, like showing more than usual, but giving Snute the idea that he can defend this, and then suddenly he swung in with all of them. He's going to try to get another surround. I must say, Snute is doing pretty okay so far, though. He's actually taking a supply lead. And now +1 is ready for these Roaches, which means they're going to be so much better against these Zerglings. I cannot believe that Snute didn't lose a ridiculous amount of drones or their third base.
Yeah, the commitment. I think Hydra got kind of greedy. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like as if he got greedy. I mean, he separated half of his Zerglings off to try and go for the jugular, straight into the natural, and try and do some damage there.
I must say, like, I really like the way Hydra started it. Like you said, only showing, like, let's say 40% of the Zerglings, and then the other Zerglings came in. I thought that would have gone better for him than it actually did. And now Snute is saying, haha, I got +1 Roaches and you don't, so I'm going to march across the map instead. And Snute might actually be causing a pretty big surprise over here in our first series, because just like in WCS Season 1, Hydra is having a very hard time in his first series in the round of 32.
And you know he's under a little bit of threat when he has to start producing a lot of Zerglings against this. 22 are on the way, so if they can pop and actually get some surrounds on some of these Roaches at the front, he would be totally fine against it.
That's actually very smart, like making sure that these Roaches can't retreat. That's a very good defense so far by Hydra. He still has a minor worker advantage. Snute never started this +2, by the way, so Snute doesn't have a massive upgrade advantage either. The soon +1 missile attacks is going to finish up for Hydra, so then we're kind of even again. Interesting, ZvZ. It's definitely not over yet. I would even say it's very even. Look at the supply, 88 on both sides.
How does Hydra, though, having committed to that many Zerglings and not having the economy power before, match up against Snute not losing his third base during all of that?
We should forget that Hydra had a third base a little bit quicker, so he had a few more larvae to work with, and I think he was able to saturate that a little bit quicker than Snute as well, because even though Snute was able to keep it alive, it was a very hectic phase in the game. So it's not the first thing you think about is like, all right, let's transfer a few drones, let's saturate that base with drones. Like, Snute immediately tried to counterattack and sees a window of opportunity over there. So I don't think it's all that bad for Hydra, but they do still slightly favor Snute's position.
Link's coming from the back again and try and kind of bottle up all of these Roaches. And for now, he is still pushing on through.
I think Snute should be very careful here. Like, he's playing with fire. This is not an overwhelming Roach force, and Hydra almost has enough, and then you know that the reinforcements are on the way. But Snute apparently feels confident enough to squeeze out 12 more drones. From this point, it really should be nothing but units for Snute, because right now he's the one in a very, very comfortable economic position.
You don't normally see that many drones in Zerg versus Zerg either. That's a lot of power behind this economy here for Snute, who all he has to do is stabilize with the amount of Roaches he's going to have.
Army supply slightly in favor of Hydra. Well, actually, I mean, Snute is a little bit more, but most of it is still in production. It's on the way, but he's setting himself up in a pretty strong defensive position. He's using a few of those drones, like you mentioned, because 70 is an unusual high number, especially with the way that this game has played out for static defenses. And since Hydra is once again getting Tunnel and Claws and Burrow, I don't mind it.
With the way the +2 weapons line up, which is a big deal for Roach versus Roach, do you feel that Hydra has to buy some time with Tunneling Claws to make sure that Snute isn't on his side of the map putting on pressure? How do these upgrades work?
Yeah, I think he looks at it in many ways. I think that's definitely one of the ways that he's looking at it, but on the other end, Tunneling Claws is just a great upgrade to do some economic damage and try to create an advantage for yourself one way or the other, because, you know, if your opponent is just sitting back on the same amount of Roaches as you have, it's very hard to make a difference. You look at it, it's like, well, as much as I would love to do something, like right now I just can't. Everything I do will be super obvious. While with Tunneling Claws and Roaches, it's a little more possible to create something for yourself. But this time Snute is very much aware of it, and I think it's going to be very difficult. And, you know, these are still upgrades that cost quite a bit of money. You don't need to do like 20-30 drone damage with it, but getting at least something for those upgrades, that would be very nice.
Well, here's the two infestors again, so it was indeed intentionally here by Snute. I mean, we kind of already concluded that before anyway.
Look at Snute, he's so ready for this, man. Like, Hydra is trying to find an opening, but this time Snute says, no, not today. I'm very ready for this. Of course, this is still very difficult. No matter how ready you are for this, I think it's very hard, because right now they're basically fighting on 3 positions. In the back of the natural, in the front, and there you can see Snute slacking a little bit. A lot of those roaches are not participating. Snute.
Yeah, he had the upgrade advantage though, and well, he's hold on at the front as well. These roaches still at the back here can cause a bit of pain, bit of pressure. This port crawler's even been added on, so he doesn't have to have detection moving around everywhere to try and catch these.
And here we go, a hive on the way again. This is what Snute loves to do, while Hydra is getting a macro hatchery instead. So Hydra is definitely going to try to hit, and now he's getting a main hatch as well, actually a 4th base. So he has 2 hatcheries on the way right now. That's crazy. Oh, he had.
Didn't reveal his hand of the 2 kind of pocket infestors as well here. Maybe, you know, Hydra can read into that with how he played it out in the last game, but I think he did see the hive, right? So
I think he still has 1 roach in the main, so at least he had. It was like tucked away in the corner of the main.
Yeah, well, so he saw the infestation pit. He didn't see the hive morphing in, but with how things went last game, he could potentially infer.
It's going to be very hard for Hydra to punish Snute the way he did on Vani though, because on Vani he definitely got a lot more damage done with his Storm and Claws. He got 10 to 12 drones, and then he followed up with a Hydra attack. He's going to try a very similar attack once more as his 2-2 finishes up. Snute now has Burrow as well, so that's going to help him regenerate HP on these roaches. Like, they're both maxed out. I like Hydra's army a little bit more because he already has the Hydras, but I mean, attacking upper ramp in ZvZ, that's going to be very tricky, especially when they're... Oh, the first fungal does not really connect with the amount of units that Snute would hope for. I mean, this is a very risky move for Hydra, very risky.
I'm looking to the infestors to try and land something. They get a few of the Hydras at the back here as the roaches are going to push on forwards. There's also a Spine Crawler for some extra fighting power, and also even some Hydralists popping out here for Snute to try and battle up against this. 29 extra roaches in production here for Hydra as he's going to push on forwards. Once again, the Hydras up to the top left weren't really dealt with, and without any roaches here for Snute to tank for his Hydras, I don't think this is going to go too well.
This is actually going very good for Hydra so far. For now, he's being forced to retreat, but the start of that battle definitely went in his favor. I mean, Snute had 8 Hydras on the way, but they were not there yet by the time that battle started. And it was very risky for Hydra to walk up that ramp, but in the end, it turned out to be the right decision. He definitely traded a lot better. If we take a look at unit loss, resource tap, it's pretty even now, but let's not forget that Hydra lost a lot more in the start of the game. So that was a good, you know, that was a very good fight for Hydra, but is it good enough though? Like, will he be able to end the game here, or will Snute be able to work with +3 missile attacks?
Well, army supply vastly in favor of here of Hydra once again, who's just going to try and barrel up into this 3rd base, kill off all the roaches. Even the drones have to come off a line. Snute knows he's in a bit of trouble here against this army. It might not be the best of concaves here for Hydra, but he just has overwhelming numbers to pressure on forwards, focus down the Hydras as well at the back, and Snute has very little left here, Rotterdam.
Yep, 21 drones going down. Hydra, with that big attack just a minute ago, was able to create the advantage for himself that he needed. Very hard to attack in ZvZ, very hard to attack upper ramp. There was only a single fungo available, but even that has to be scary. But Hydra was able to make it work. Snipes the roach ward now as well. No more roaches. Oh man, this was definitely not an easy victory for Hydra, but it seems like the favorite will be able to prevail in the end.
Snute realizing he needs an overseer is here again, as he did die off at the front, and it just doesn't matter at this point. Pushing up here with these roaches again. If he can hit things before the 3-3 actually comes along as well, then super happy times here for Hydra, who's just rallying on forwards. Hydras and roaches just powering across the map, and he's 100 supply up. This is so done here for Snute. GG. Hydra takes the series 2-1. Shows some stellar form there.
Pretty explosive ZvZ series, to say the least, and like, once again, a lot of good decisions being made on both sides, where I feel like it's so hard for Hydra to commit to an attack like he did. Let's of course not ignore the upgrade advantage that he had during that fight. Not only did Snute have 8 Hydralisks on the production tab that were not there to start the battle off with, he also +2 armor was just halfway done, while Hydra had 2-2 upgrades. And, you know, of course, stating those things, and you could say like, well, it's obvious that Hydra was going to win that fight, but I still think it's a very hard call to make, to run up a ramp in ZvZ and then take that fight so close to your opponent's reinforcements, and your opponent is sort of ready to you know, receive that attack as well, because he saw those roaches move around the 3rd base. So great call by Hydra in the end, man.
Yeah.
It's not an easy one to make, that's for sure.
And now Snute is in a position that he doesn't find himself too often here in the World Championship Series, now being in the losers match, having to fight against Kelazar down there and try and push himself on forward. See, he goes into that game probably a clear favorite, him being Snute and what he does, but now Hydra has really asserted himself and has a really good opportunity in this group.
Yeah, that last game has to be kind of frustrating for Snute though, because the way that the way that it played out and the way that Hydra opened with that many Zerglings and a +1 melee attack and then not killing that third base, Snute must have looked at that game. It's like, all right, I mean, saying that this game is mine maybe is a little bit of a stretch, but he must have felt pretty confident, and it really stinks to lose a game 3 in your first best of 3 of the day when you felt you were in a good position and when you felt that even the mid phase, you know, when Tunnel and Claws and Burrow were ready, I felt that Snute handled that pretty well, didn't lose that many drones, so most things were going well for Snute in that game. And then in the end, maybe still a little bit too greedy going up to Hive that quickly before you're actually maxed out and you have your Hydras out. Like maybe if you would have gone for those Hydras first and then go for the Hive and then go for +3, maybe it would have all gone a little bit better because he didn't really have to rush up to Hive because that game was going well for him.
Yeah, it was. It was. Oh, well, that is it for our second series of the day here, guys. Let's hear from our winner. It's Hydra over there with Apollo.
Thank you very much, Kalaris and Rotterdam. Excellent cast as always, boys. Joined with the winner of our second game of the day here, Hydra. Congratulations on that victory. I've got a question just to start this off with. What were your thoughts when you saw that you had to play against Snute? It's a big game. We on the desk thought this could be quarterfinals, could be semifinals, but group stage, really early on. Were you nervous? Were you excited to play Snute?
Yeah, when I saw the group, I was excited because Snute is definitely the best pro gamer in foreigner scene. So, yeah, I thought I was prepared good, but yeah, Snute prepared better than me. So, yeah, the first game was so hard for me.
That was a really commanding win in the end, though, there. I did want to ask you about those first 2 games, Hydra, because you played very similar styles. We saw a Zerg versus Zerg mirror match, but you and Snute did almost identical builds, game 1 and game 2. It felt like a very safe build. Did you just want to play the Roach game? Why did you choose this sort of late gas, straight to lair and Roach build? Did you think that Snute wouldn't punish you? You thought you could maybe take a little risk?
No, I prefer to play safety build, so I thought that build was safest build and just, you know, I can deal with against everything build, so yeah, I chose that build.
A very confident build there.
Yeah.
All right, so what we're going to do now, guys, is something that we've done a little bit in the past, but we're going to bring it back to the WCS. Pig, you're going to walk us through a couple of moments of game number 3 there. So, you know, what points are we looking at?
Well, we're going to be going in and we're going to be looking at 2 points in that final game. The first one is going to be when that big +1 melee speedling attack came in. And then we're going to go on and we're going to look at some of those later engagements where you actually closed it out. So let's take a look up here on screen. And we can see we're paused right here at about the 8-minute mark when you were coming across with this timing. This was very different to your earlier games. What made you choose this sort of play style?
Because I checked their second guess, so it was so late. So I thought he was gonna same play as first game or second game. So yeah, I think that late Roach build counter is melee juggling, so I chose that build.
I think there was an interesting point here where he kind of let the wall down and you could see him getting, your Zerglings were getting a good trade. Do you think it was a mistake to not target down the third base around this point? Or do you think killing the Roaches was more important?
Actually, this build is from Cats. So Cats say just if you go fight with juggling to Roaches, whatever you win. So actually, I didn't prepare that build much. So,
okay.
Yeah, I just fight with Roach, but yeah.
A little bit of Cats-inspired play there, and we see it. I think it really got some good momentum going for you. So we are going to be moving on. We're going to be looking at a little bit later in the game in just a moment. And you did some very aggressive play in both Game 2 and Game 3, where you transitioned into Hydralisks, and you really got in there with very nice timings.
Because I saw Snute spine color in the nature, which means he's gonna prepare infestor or hive something defensive style. So that I think Roach Hydra timing is good against something prepare after a late game. So
Okay, cool. Well, let's take a look at this fight now. I think you're absolutely right that we could see in the drone count a little bit earlier that Snute was actually about 72, 74 drones. And tell us what you were feeling as you were pushing in here. Did you think this was a good engagement angle?
yeah, I thought my upgrade is higher than him, or even his armor upgrade. So yeah, I have a lot of money, so I just trade. If I trade money, it would be very good for me. So I was just.
And we could see it in the supply count here. It was a really commanding fight. I think it was the perfect timing. You got in there just before he started getting a bit more infestor energy, more Hydralisks up. So that was absolutely commanding. And we are going to see here, Funk is just going to lead us through this very final engagement. And we could see you just being very decisive to commit here. At this point, how did you feel winning this series now that you're going into the winner's match?
I heard Lilbo is very good against Zero Pros players, so yeah, I can't wait to play with him, and probably I will win, and yeah, advance.
Okay, fantastic. Well, let's go out of that replay now, and let's bring it back here.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Hydra, for that expert analysis there, and thank you very much, Pig, for conducting it. Final thoughts, though, before we go to the next match. Game against Lilbo. What are you thinking about this?
Actually, I didn't play with him many games, so I'm not sure what he's gonna doing, but yeah, I have a lot of confidence against Protoss, so probably I'm gonna win.
All right, well, good luck, have fun in the next game. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Thank you very much, Hydra, for joining us. Thank you very much, Pig, for that segment once again. Guys, time to have a look at the bracket just to confirm that Hydra has moved through to the winners match and will be competing up there against Lilbo in a little bit. But remember, the next match is going to be the lower bracket game. It's going to be Snute has to stay on that stage and prepare to face off against Kelazar in a match for elimination. Which player is going home first tonight? It's going to be a sad story for one of these players. Which one will it be? We'll find out